welcome back. I got everything nice and dry and cool to the touch. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put in our shadows, and I have it turned this way so it's a little easier for me to get at. Since the light's coming from over here, your light's going this direction, your shadow is going to be over here. So if you look at your resource material, this is your largest shadows under these two, and they're the darkest, so that would make sense. And then here, and then there's just a touch of a shadow there. So we're going to do one area at a time. I don't want a ton of water because I don't want this to spread a really long ways. So, because you want 3 values in your shadows if at all possible. That's important. All right, so I got my water in the first one, and I'm going to go right back to my number tool, which is what we've been working in. And what I've done is I've created a mix between burnt sienna and burnt umber. So it's just kind of a soft reddish tone. And I went to the reddish because of the golden color of my grapes. So, and you want it to be darker towards the grapes themselves, but I'm just going to get this glaze in here, and then we can darken it up closer to the grapes even after it dries. If you want to do it that way, you could certainly do it that way too, or you can drop in some darker value now. It's your choice. Now, you don't want that to have a definite line to it. If you look at your resource material, it's fluffy. So I'm just going to soften my edge with clear water. I'm going to turn this around so I can get at it. Adding just a touch more water. Added a little bit more color on this edge here. Okay, so I've got the basic design, softening my edge away of the shadow. Now I want that to be a little bit darker. So what I'm going to do, Van Dyke brown is a real pretty brown. I'm going to just add right in the corner of my mixture a little bit of the Van Dyke brown. Now it's going to get almost a blackish color, so you want to be cautious with that Van Dyke brown. You don't want to go too dark. And I want this to go out a little ways. This is not our darkest value yet. And since that's moist right now, we're just going to let the outside water soften that color in. Now I'm going to add in just a touch of Payne's Gray, just to give me my darkest value. Perfect. It's still moist enough that it's darkening. This darkness is softening away. So we've got 3 values in that shadow. We got the darkest right underneath the grapes, then we got the mid value, and then the lightest value, which is almost a reddish tone, which is what I wanted for my grapes. All right, so let's do that again. It's a much smaller area here, so I'm going to try to not pick up quite as much water. And it's right in here. Now I want to bring this out further than where we're going to put paint because I want it to soften out. Oh, that looks good. So I'm going to go into the lightest value that we made. Put that all over the entire area. That's pretty dark, so I'm going to take some of that off of my brush. Keep an eye on where your water is. Clean my brush, and I'm going to soften this edge away. Just a little bit more moisture in there. Just to soften it in. There we go. That's better. All right. Now we're going to go into the next darker value. Don't cover up that entire first value, just the corner basically is what we're working on, and that will soften in. And now we're going to go into our darkest. So shadows are a lot of fun once you get the hang of them. It's just like, I'm going to redo this one up here because I like this color I just used a little bit better. It's just like your grapes. You need a light value, a mid value, and a dark value. It's just in an undefined area, basically. Soften that in. And I'm just softening everything in over here. I picked up some of the color. I didn't necessarily want to do that. So I'm just going to add some of it back in where I want it. And sometimes when you really need to add color back in and it's been picked up and you didn't want it to be picked up, you can just pat it down rather than trying to move it around. Patting it down will let it stay that way. See how I'm moving my brush up and down? And it's allowing the paper to pick up that paint then. And if I have to go over that again, I can. At the end, just gonna try and soften this edge a little bit more. There we go. Okay. Now we've got one more shadow. So we got these two done. There's just a little tiny one right there, and I mean it is tiny. So I'm just going to use my number 2 brush to add water there. But again, you want it wider or farther out than you plan on putting your paint. So you want to make sure you've got it spread out as far as you need it. And I'm looking at the side to make sure I've got the area I need covered. Okay, so we're going to go into the first value. Get right into that corner. gonna let that spread. Adding in a little bit more water for it to spread into. That's better. All right. Our second value in. It's almost the same color, just more of it. Okay. And now our darkest. This is going to be just a little sliver of dark, right like that. So I'm going to dry this, then we're going to remove our masking fluid and see if we need to soften those shadows out, but I want it to be nice and dry before we attempt to do that. So okay, I'll be right back with you. Okay, I got everything nice and dry, cool to the touch. Now I do want to take that shadow color with the burnt sienna and burnt umber, and we're going to put it into the branches. Not a lot, I'm just doing wet on dry. And what this is doing is it's relating that shadow color back to the design. So it doesn't look like it's an incorrect color. We're just going to add some of it in here real quick, and then we can run a little bit of moisture over the top with a damp brush and soften it in. And that just relates the color back, so it doesn't look like it's a sore thumb just sitting down here and that color's not anywhere in the design. Okay, so there. Now, clean my brush and set it aside. I've got my handy dandy pickup here to remove the masking fluid. This is the pen masking fluid, so this will be interesting. It does come off. Once it comes off pretty good. It's good. And then if we need to soften the inside of that, we can. We don't want it to look real harsh. That's a pretty good pen. I like that. It's coming off real nice. It definitely saved that white, which is the goal that we're looking for with the masking fluid. It's to save the white of the paper. This is going to give our design a completely different look here with this off, which is good. Actually, the thicker you put that on, the easier it is to get off. Isn't that funny? It's usually not the case with a different masking fluid. But I like this being so nice and dark blue like that. You can completely see right where it is. All right, so I'm going to pick up my number 2 brush again. I'm going to clean it really well though, so I don't have any of the shadow color on there. And I'm going to pick up our lightest value, just a real soft color, and we'll start down here so you can see me. And I'm just going to soften the inside edge. We don't want to cover up the entire highlight, just want to soften that inside edge. so it doesn't look quite so stark. And you need to do this with almost any masking fluid, so this is not a surprise at all to me. Some of these don't really look like they need it, but I don't want them to stand out real light either. But it is softening them into the background for sure, which is the goal here. I'm going to leave the center of interest one nice and bright white, so I want that grape to come forward as much as possible. That's the goal. Need some more color on that one. And this is such a light value that I'm putting on here. It will blend right into the background. All right. Now I'm just looking at my sit down shading. I don't think we need to do a whole ton here. I just want to soften it just a little bit more. That's all I want to do. I think it looks really good up against the grapes. I just like to have this outside edge a little bit softer. So just by adding a little bit of water on here. Soften that edge away. Okay. So I'm pretty happy with the way this design turned out. There is, of course, one thing that I need to do, and that's sign it. So I've got my brush nice and clean, picking up a golden color here, which makes sense since everything on the design is pretty much gold. And you want to practice your signature. Well, it's not going to show up too gold, so pick up that color. Let's see what would be really pretty with this. Let's do a very soft red in with that gold. There we go, that should work. And you do want to practice your signature so that people can look at it and say, oh yeah, that's that Colleen Aiken. I like her stuff. That's what you want. I've signed my stuff the same way for years and years. I'll be adding this to YouTube. It'll be in a fast, so it'll be real fast on film. But I'll be adding the entire class to Patreon. I'm changing my Patreon site so that there's only one tier That's what they call them. And I have 3 on there right now, and I'm going to change that so there's just 1 tier, and everybody that signs up for my Patreon class can see everything that I offer, all my beginners, intermediates, and advanced. And I thought about that the other day, and I thought, I think that would be a really good idea to do, because there was a lot of times as I was learning to paint, I wanted to try an intermediate if I was a beginner, but you didn't have that capability on Patreon, or I wanted to try an advanced even though I was an intermediate, but you wouldn't have had that ability on Patreon. So now with me doing that, everybody's going to be able to look at all of the classes. So thank you so much. Just go to patreon.com/Colleen D. Aiken, and you'll find all my classes. And thank you for watching me, and please have a lovely day.